Hey guys, People Blues Gamers, back to review the Captain America Civil War movie. So, holy shit, man, we are spoiled by comic book movies. This was general impressions going right into here, no spoilers. I'm gonna give maybe a 2-3 minute thing here on my my thoughts on the movie, no spoilers at all, and then I'll tell you when spoilers are coming. You could click off the video, put it in your watch for later after you've seen the movie, and then come back. And I'll go into my likes and dislikes and rating of the movie. So, general impressions for this movie. This movie's great. I mean, this movie is gritty, it's brutal, it has humor that doesn't feel forced inside of the movie. The new characters here, and obviously this not being a spoiler, and Spider-Man and Black Panther for me totally work. They're totally properly integrated in the story. Black Panther is exactly how you would imagine him to be, in my opinion. Spider-Man, I'm going to go saying that this is the best Spider-Man, on-screen adaptation of Spider-Man we've seen yet. Tom Holland nails it, the Peter Parker side, and even more so the Spider-Man side, because we see more of that side, and just, it's great all around. It's really heartfelt, it's like I said, brutal, it's emotional. You feel for these characters, you feel that these were once friends, and after the events of this movie, they are no longer friends, or it's very, very, maybe a fleeting glimpse they could be friends again, but it's very torn relationship now, and it's just all around, it's a smaller scope of a movie, even though this movie ends up covering massive things, so many characters, so many places around the world. It feels weird to say that this is a smaller scope of a movie than, let's say, Age of Ultron, but it is. It feels like a tighter, more knit story where some characters get more screen time and some get less, but all of them fit and they work, and it seems like these character arcs for many of these characters take natural progressions. Overall, I love this movie. I think it's great. It's one of my favorite MCU movies, and I say go out, check it out, and see it. It's absolutely awesome. All right, so now moving into a spoiler discussion. Full spoilers in this area. If you have not seen the video, the movie here, click off of this video right now, put it in your watch for later, like I said, go out and see the movie 1, 2, 3 times, and then come back in and hear my thoughts on it. So full spoilers, here we go. I found this movie, and going into likes here, is so enjoyable I can't even describe it. It's a movie that had me as I wouldn't even say Marvel fanboy, but just as a superhero comic book fan, just having all ranges of emotions in the movie, of sitting up in my seat and moving back and getting out of my seat and going, holy shit, I can't believe that happened. Like the moments in this movie, like, even fast forwarding to the end of the movie when Cap and Iron Man are fighting, after Bucky gets his fucking arm shot off, just Zemo and T'Challa talking, and the iconic shot of the Civil War cover, the comic book cover, of Iron Man using his blasters, Cap's shield, and him pushing back on it and just like radiating out off the shield was so awesome to see on screen. Yes, is this movie way different than the comic book that, in my opinion, I really like the comic book, but it's got a ton of flaws in it. This movie, it makes a nod to it, but it is completely different. I mean, logically speaking, it has to be. It doesn't have the scope of Civil War. It doesn't have the time to develop out all of the stories leading up to Civil War, and then after the explosion at the school, and then all the repercussions of it, and then even the events after Cap getting shot and all that stuff. It doesn't have time to deal with that stuff, and obviously also the MCU doesn't have access to the characters that are in the Civil War comic book, or just the amount of characters in general. It just can't do it, but it still works. It still works. I can't believe when Cap and Iron Man are fighting at the end of this movie, and there's that moment where I never thought it would happen, but where Tony doesn't know what's happening. His helmet gets ripped off, everything, and Cap has the shield, and he could basically decapitate Tony with his shield, and then he shoves it through the arc reactor, and then like just him walking away, picking up Bucky as the shield, and just Tony going, my father made that shield, and Cap thinks about it, and then Steve throws it down to the ground. Because, like, those were such a gripping, emotional moments that I was like, holy fuck. I never thought a Marvel movie would go there. And I know, I've read some reviews, and I haven't really watched anyone's reviews, and I know a lot of people like this movie, but they're somewhat critical on it that they go, so what? Does this do anything for the story going forward? I kind of, at the end of it, I feel like nothing really happened, and I totally disagree. I feel like this is being lucky number 13 in the MCU, this is the movie that's had the most consequences so far. Where all the other movies, you do feel like, they kind of did this, like Winter Soldier, right? In my recent ranking of the MCU, right, I rated it as my favorite movie, almost a masterpiece, right? But you hint, spoilers for Winter Soldier here, you hint at Nick Fury dying, right? And you think, oh shit, he's dead. And you spend a lot of time thinking he's dead. You see his body, everything, and then he's not dead. And you know how many times that's been done with Iron Man and the Avengers, and I mean everyone. Even they've teased Cap being dead, they've teased, obviously Bucky being dead. But here, nobody dies in this movie, but you feel repercussions, not only strained relationships, massively destroyed relationships, but Rhodey's paralyzed at the end of this movie. That's a repercussion that if they don't pull a fucking bullshit thing of Arrow and like all of a sudden he puts a chip in his back and he's fine, that's a massive repercussion. Going forward, if they keep him paralyzed, which they probably won't, but if they keep him paralyzed, every time you see Rhodey on screen, every time you see Don Cheadle on screen, you're gonna be like, oh fuck, that's right. That's when the Vision accidentally hit him and he got fucking paralyzed. Like, that is something that is not only emotionally gripping, it has weight. It means something. I don't think, maybe Cap or Tony could work together again, but I don't think Tony could ever accept Bucky. Even though Bucky was brainwashed and everything, he killed his fucking parents. Like, that's something I don't think you can get over, regardless of brainwashing or not. Like, that's where I feel the movie has weight. That's where it's into my likes category. I mean, it's just, I could talk about this movie for hours, but scoping back to the entire movie, I think starting off at the beginning of the movie, giving a Bucky kind of flashback that is going to mean something later, kind of him as the Winter Soldier in Russia. You know that the person he killed has to be someone important, and for me, I kind of knew who it was, but I'll touch on that later. But just going through this movie and seeing them struggling both sides of the argument of Cap's side and Tony's side. That great scene when Secretary of State Ross now comes in and he gives how he's changed so much after having a triple bypass and changing his life and giving him perspective. And now he comes in and goes, I didn't expect it. I thought it was more like, hey, here's this thing and you should sign it or not. Like, it was like he was taking no shit. He walked in there and said, hey, all the events, even the one here at the beginning of the movie in Nigeria, now you need to own up. We've been talking about this with the UN, 18 or 13, state countries, he said, signs it, and this is it. This is retire from being a superhero, or you sign this and you go by a UN board and you do what they say. Like, and that I didn't expect. And then, unlike the comic book, where Tony becomes, I think in my opinion, and just blatantly obvious, I think to many people that are have read it, an outright villain. Even though Cap could be a little bit of a dick in the story, and I'm Team Cap in this movie, I'm Team Cap in the comic book. I'm so much more Team Cap in the comic book because Tony is an outright villain. I mean, he hires villains to enforce the Registration Act, to hunt down heroes, to put them in a prison 42 in the negative zone. I mean, that's fucked up shit. I mean, he creates a clone of Thor that fucking kills Goliath. Like, he's definitely more of a villain, where in this movie, and the thing I like is that even me as a Cap fan, and siding with Cap, when they're in that boardroom after Ross came in, I go, you know what, Tony's not wrong. He's not wrong at all. I think it was a powerful moment when he makes a little joke about the coffee grinds, in the sink, and then he brings up the kid that his mother approached him after the conference, that he gave at MIT. And he explains that this kid was just trying to help the world and help these people in Sokovia build houses, and we dropped a building on him. And to me, that was powerful, that it's like, holy fuck, you spend time, rooting for these characters, and like Tony said, yeah, and you know, he was dead and we jumped the building on while we were busy kicking ass. To a problem that Tony and Bruce created in Ultron. And even though, hey, they couldn't have seen Hydra coming in the Winter Soldier, and hey, you know, it was Shield's doing, not any one, you know, not any one of the Avengers that brought the Chitauri to Earth. Still, this is the government and the superheroes' responsibility. You know, this thing in Nigeria here at the beginning of the film with Scarlet Witch, she fucks up. She fucks up. And now these superheroes have to own up to that. And I loved how throughout the movie, I personally questioned, shit, am I more Tony's side here or more Cap's side here? I don't know. Like, I don't know. I see Tony's point, and they're completely right. If I was a person, a regular human being in this universe, I would side with Tony. I would side with Ross because I want these people regulated. I want them saving me, but I do want them to have a little bit of jurisdiction or a little bit of consequences if they if they fuck up. They have to own up to something. And I love how the movie made me do that. I love just that opening scene in Nigeria before, Scarlet Witch fucks up, that just the Russo brothers putting their stamp on this universe and getting me excited for Infinity War, because I was afraid when they were announced, not for this movie, but for Infinity War, that are we going to get too stale with them? And, that's to be seen. But are we going to get too stale with their filmmaking, with their style? I don't really like, especially in the superhero movies, having the same director and over. It's a problem I have in DC, not getting into that discussion right here, but with Zack Snyder, directing Man of Steel, and Batman v Superman, and the two Justice League parts. It's like, it's too much of the same. I even questioned when Whedon came back to the Avengers, and I especially questioned more after, it's like, I don't know if anyone could have handled that differently, but are we getting too much of the same? I didn't feel that way here with the Russo brothers in this movie. Man, whoever they bring on as stunt people, whoever is their hand-to-hand fight people that fill in and teach the actors and also fill in as stunt doubles, they have the best. They have some of the best I've seen in film today. And I watch a lot of action movies. I love Mission Impossibles and the James Bond franchise and all this shit. And I don't know what they do between Winter Soldier and Civil War, but they nail it. I mean, that shit of not only Cap fighting, Scarlet Witch, obviously, it's really cool what they do with her powers and they work on that. And unique how they made Falcon a badass in this movie and really made him, I liked him in Winter Soldier, but really made him into a character that you're like, fuck, he can really fuck you up when clotheslining people in midair or using his wings as a shield or having, his little, I think he called it, Red Wing that he has in that terrible Avengers series that is going now. But still, it's cool that he has that attachment that they put in. But the best hand-to-hand fight scenes, some in the movie, are in the beginning with fucking Black Widow. I mean, that shit, I felt her punches hitting the bad guys. That was brutal, brutal shit. And I love that. I love the brutality in this movie. Loved it. Great opening scene. Starting off with a bang. Loved it. Love that. Going into the rest of the movie, I love Zemo in this movie. And I know people have criticized him, and I'll get into maybe some of the dislikes about him and the character, but I think Daniel Bruhl did a great job in this role. I think he nailed the character, not only for what he was given, but I think he expanded on it. And is it a cookie cutter kind of revenge story? Yeah, it is. But are his actions justified? Yeah. And this is now 3 movies, right? We've seen it in the Avengers. Loki, I'm going to tear you apart, right? Ultron, we're going to tear them apart, right? He doesn't. He tears the Avengers apart. He's the first one so far in 13 movies, or, basically a few of them being together, that he did it. He successfully tore them apart. And I really liked that, and I really liked how they portrayed him. Yes, he's not the same Zemo that I love from the comic books or from the Avengers Earth's Mightiest Hero series, where he's got a purple, fucking sock face mask over him with a sword. No. And maybe we'll get hints of that because obviously this is Helmut Zemo, not Baron Zemo, which was his father. But I would love to see that. I would love to see if there's a history of this. Obviously, he's not really a Nazi. He's more of Sokovian. But I would love to see that history of how that was going. So I thought he was great in this movie. I think this having actual lines. I think Sebastian Stan was great in The Winter Soldier. Just having basically no lines, but his facial expressions and his body language really told a story, I think, about Bucky, if you really look into it. Here, he's just as great. For me, you're expanding the story of Bucky, making it Bucky is kind of the crux where you don't have a school exploding, basically, and all this shit like in the comic book, and then Spider-Man kind of being the central point of tugging between two sides and then revealing who he is. You couldn't do that shit in this movie. But having him as kind of that central point that this whole problem has started was awesome. And I think he's great. Just those little moments of comedy that felt organic, where a lot of times in Age of Ultron, I felt they were so forced. I don't really have a problem like other people do with like the language joke, but like, the hide to the zucchini bullshit and how to break an omelet and make an omelet, like all that shit felt like, it's a little bit forced. Here, the comedy feels like just natural, where it's like, just when Falcon's sitting in the front seat of that car and Bucky's behind him and he's just like, can you move up your, can you move up your seat? No. Like, that is hilarious moments, and then he just moves to the middle. Or the smile they give after, Sharon and Steve kiss. Like, those were great fucking moments. And some of the funniest moments, as they should be, are Ant-Man and Spider-Man. Those should be your funniest characters. Yes, Tony's sarcastic and things like that, but those should be your funniest characters, and they nail it. I mean, let's talk about even more of the fights in this movie. Let's talk about the airport scene. I mean, the airport scene is gotta be top 3 fight scenes in the MCU for me to date. I mean, amazing how they were able to handle the characters, how you could be seeing one fight, but in the background you can see another fight, and how they shot it with, with these awesome wide shots in an expansive area, and were able to use Spider-Man's skills of swinging around, like kind of the metal structure of the airport, and how Giant Man comes to be, and just awesome things of matching up certain characters where it's like Hawkeye coming in, oh, we haven't met, I'm Clint, I don't care, like Black Panther going, and catching 2 arrows, they explode, and it doesn't matter to him. Like, that was awesome fucking shit. I love that. Even going back to the fight scene of when Bucky, when Zemo makes Bucky go back into brainwash mode, and him fighting Tony and Sharon and Natasha and that was and Chadwick Boseman's Black Panther T'Challa was awesome. That shit was like, God, you guys know how to do hand-to-hand fight scenes. I mean, I love that airport scene just because I can't believe, even though I saw it coming a little bit, I can't still believe they did Giant Man. They actually did it. We had, great clips of Spider-Man going, hey guys, have you seen that old movie called Empire Strikes Back? And boom, doing what they did to the AT-AT. And like, taking him down and just the clips of like, hey kid, I don't know how many fights you've been, but you don't usually talk this much. Oh, good to know. Like, all that shit. Like, hey man, catch. And he throwing shit back at Bucky and Falcon, or pinning them to the floor, and just like, just fucking going. You couldn't have done that before when like he used the Red Wing to knock Spider-Man out of the building, and just fucking going, I hate you. Like, those were great moments. I love that. Or the fight scene even of when they're coming for Bucky in his apartment. That was brutal as fuck, and how the camera follows the whole scene, and how they rip off part of the bars on the stairwell to kind of ride down to a couple floors and all that shit. That was awesome shit. That is great fight scenes. Very personal, close hand-to-hand combat that I love, where I think in today's movies, in today's comic book and superhero movies, we can get too wrapped up in the entire, hey, let's do everything CGI, and let's do this, and, spectacles and visual effects, and it's like, no. Let's get back to stunt people and training actors to kind of do some scenes themselves, to do close hand-to-hand combat, and it works perfectly with these characters of Captain America and Winter Soldier and even Falcon and Hawkeye and Black Widow, and that shit is awesome. Where have your fantastic characters in Vision and Scarlet Witch, or even Iron Man and War Machine, but then have characters even like Black Panther that can awesomely fight hand-to-hand. That shit is great. That is the crux of the movie. That is a reason to go see it. And then just going towards the end of the movie, I mean, as I touched on already, a brutal, brutal fight scene between Bucky and Tony and Steve. Absolutely awesome. Totally dramatic, totally great scenes. The raft is in this movie. The prison, the raft is in this movie. It gives me hope that one day they'll somehow get the rights back for the Negative Zone, and we'll see, Annihilus and Prison 42, and like, just to have the raft in this movie is just another step closer to maybe Marvel getting something back, or just, even if it's not, just having that in a movie and seeing, parts of Cap's team in prison, how they're reacting to Tony there and talking, and how they all have different reactions was great, and I loved that. And those are the crux of the movie. It still feels like a Captain America movie and a brotherhood story between not Cap and Tony, but Cap and Bucky. I mean, what a shot of the two of them when they get back to Siberia and they're chasing down Zemo. And they're talking as the ramp is lowering on the plane about, in the 1940s or so, about them talking about, hitting on a girl and spending all their money that they couldn't get like a train back from where they were, and oh, she must be 100 years old now, and hey, we are too. Like, those were great moments, and it really sold me on all the characters. Even the little hints of like Vision and Scarlet Witch in this movie maybe being something more in other movies, and seeing just how she's getting more and more powerful. She's still learning how to control her powers, but man, shooting Vision through the fucking floor of the Avengers facility, like 20 floors down. Those were like little touchings of things. There's not too much Sharon Carter in this movie, but I like how she's there. Or having Steve be affected by Peggy's funeral that's there. Like, that shit's awesome. I really enjoyed that, where I've seen some reviewers come out and say, oh, why does the Peggy shit matter for like a woman he knew for 5 minutes? Well, he didn't know for 5 minutes. You have to understand, when he was Captain America, even before he was Captain America, but even when he was Captain America, he's working in that unit for at least 2 years. It's not all shown in the movie, but it's hinted that they spent a lot more time with each other. And that would still mean a lot to him, especially than seeing her in present day. And that had an effect on me, where you see Cap cry, like when he's carrying, when he's carrying her coffin, to the front of the church. Like, that really hit me, and I love those parts of the movie, that they can handle many storylines, but I never felt they were going up and down like in Age of Ultron and spoon feeding things. And I felt like it was a cool story that had a lot of things going on, but it felt nice. It felt succinct. It felt like one story where I was like, yeah, that character would do that. And, the Russo brothers came out and they talked about this movie. And they talked about how many characters are in this movie, that they sat down and they looked at each individual character and they worked out their entire arc of the story, where they've been, how they are in this movie, and where they're going, so they can get everyone that they thought in a logical area. And I think it works here. I think everyone across the board is the best. I mean, I can't believe just how good this was, and how now excited, not like I wasn't before, but how excited I am for Ryan Coogler's Black Panther. And seeing Chadwick Boseman play this character, I was sad that, what happened to his dad, we only get 3 minutes of T'Chaka, but him and Black Widow were the two characters that I couldn't wait to see going into this movie, and they worked so well, and all these characters worked so well, and Black Panther and Spider-Man were perfect, exactly what I wanted. And now I'm actually pumped for a Spider-Man movie next year, where I still don't like the title in Spider-Man Homecoming. I get the kind of fourth wall breaking of coming home to Marvel, but whatever. But now I'm actually excited to see Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man, and I can't wait to see Black Panther. It sucks that I have to wait till February of 2018 to see that movie. Like, that's bullshit. And that's what this movie did, is it got me invested for the future, but it made me love what I was seeing. Where Batman v Superman had problems of, yeah, I'm more excited for the future than this movie because it has problems. This movie was great, and I still like going for the future. And I don't go one side or the other. I love both, and I don't understand the fanboy shit of loving one and hating the other. I love both, and I want to see both succeed. Yeah, do I read more Marvel comic books than DC? Yeah, but that's just because I have more access to them, because they're easier to buy. I'm a Marvel Unlimited member. DC doesn't really have anything that I could do there, but I love them both equally, and that's why I hate when people get into these arguments of, well, I'm glad Batman v Superman sucked, or Civil War sucked, and Batman v Superman was great. No, them both being great, if they were, helps future movies. I mean, that came out that Civil War, the only reason that Marvel really set in on this idea was after DC confirmed Batman v Superman, that they were like, hey, this is the thing we can do, and that audiences will respond to heroes fighting each other. And as long as those two companies keep building each other up, I think it's going to be great, and I hope this movie pushes DC to make a great Justice League movie, and I hope Suicide Squad's great. But, you know, getting back to here to Civil War, I advise you to go out and see this. I can't wait to see this next week. I'm going to see this probably 2 more times in theaters. It's definitely an experience to see in theaters. I didn't see it in IMAX or 3D. I don't like 3D, but definitely see it in the best possible quality you are. Love the characters you're with, and see how they're going to fit into the next parts of the movie, considering we're not going to see many of these characters until 2018. So I think it was a nice wrap-up to the story of Civil War, and I really enjoyed it. Also, moving into a couple of other likes of this movie are Falcon. I think he's absolutely fantastic in this movie. He's kind of the funny man of the movie, that kind of shit keeps happening to him in the way of Spider-Man appearing, or having to deal with the bullshit of Bucky, and kind of like this, kind of like he's Cap's now wingman, no pun intended in a way, and now having Bucky back in the fold, and also Bucky causing all the problems for him and Cap. So it was really great to see, and it was really funny, where I think Anthony Mackie sold a lot of the hilarious moments, and I love Falcon in this film. He was great in The Winter Soldier, but even better here. And then I guess moving on to the last parts of likes in this film for me, with the after credit scenes. There are 2 after credit scenes in this movie, and they're both great. You have the first one, kind of the mid-credit scene, of being Cap took Bucky to Wakanda. Bucky is now kind of in a kind of cryo freeze, as he was when he was the Winter Soldier. We assume that he's going to get his arm repaired, hopefully another metal arm, because I love that thing. And he's kind of put in the cryo freeze until they can figure out what's happening with his mind and how to shut off the whole Hydra brainwashing, so someone like Zemo or someone else can't just have these words and numbers in order, and bang, he snaps back and he's the Winter Soldier again. So I thought that was really interesting, and him and Cap having that conversation where, like, hey, if they find out he's here, meaning Bucky, they're gonna come for you, and they can try. And that was great. And then just seeing the great, Panther statue there of the Black Panther. And maybe that will set up, don't know if it will, and I doubt it will, but maybe that will set up kind of the story for Black Panther movie. I think it'll be possibly more of a flashback, maybe going back and forth, but it could be a plot of the movie of maybe the UN coming into Wakanda, or trying to come into Wakanda and get Bucky. I think that'd be really cool to see, and it was nice to see him and Cap to come to some common ground there, and him understanding that it wasn't Bucky that his fault, and he didn't even end up killing his father. It was Zemo and things like that, and he didn't end up even letting Zemo kill. Black Panther didn't let Zemo kill himself in the end, and wanted him to pay for his crime. So I thought the after credit scene worked great. Another build up to why I can't wait for the Black Panther movie. And then the other one, the end credit scene of Spider-Man. Great to see him, just the humor and the jokes there, of just like explaining to Aunt May who, by the way, Marissa Tomei, I thought was really great in the role, even though they make light of it in the script, and using Tony as kind of the audience of like, wow, she's unusually attractive for an aunt. That is hilarious, but I think she fit great in that role. And then seeing Peter tried to explain, like, yeah, I got in this fight. Yeah, I got a couple good licks in, but yeah, oh, you don't know him. He's this guy Steve from Brooklyn. Like, obviously referencing Captain America. That was great. And to see also that Spider-Man's extremely powerful, but to see that it does take a weight on him, that he was all fucked up and had a black eye and everything else. So I really, really did like that. And then obviously the reveal of kind of his Spidey light coming out of his wrist, which is normally the light that's on his kind of waistband, kind of what he puts on, where he uses it kind of as a shining light of being Spider-Man just before kind of entering a fight, kind of almost like a bat symbol, but not in the same way as like the bat signal. And also he used it just as a regular like flashlight, so it was really cool. We have not seen that so far in any of the Spider-Man movies, so it was cool. I always think of it when he's crawling on the ceiling in the Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes episode, when Cap is kind of trying to win the public's trust back after the whole Skrulls invasion. He uses it in there when they're escorting citizens down in the subway, so I always think of it there. But that was cool, and it looks like it had like a whole little gadgets around, so maybe we'll see that in the Spider-Man film, and I assume we will, because I think it's going to pick up right from where these events are. I think it's not going to be an origin story, I don't think, but you're just going to see probably a little bit of those things be a different little gadgets that Spider-Man, that Spider-Man got from Tony and things like that. So I'm really interested to see that. I thought the 2 after credit scenes were great. I don't know where, I'm not going to decide yet where I would rank them in the after credit scenes so far in the MCU. I have to see the movie a couple more times, but I thought it was absolutely great. Great to end cap scenes there, end credit scenes for the movie, and definitely redeeming, I would say, after Age of Ultron kind of had a pretty bad, I would say, after credit scene, and then Ant-Man had some really great scenes, so it was nice to kind of get back to that and have ones that even mean so much, like the Wasp one, a scene from Civil War at the end of Ant-Man, great, but this was like, yeah, I can't wait for those Black Panther and Spider-Man movies, like I talked about in this review. Like, those characters felt perfect the way they were introduced, and these after credit scenes even, they just added to, I can't wait to see their movies next year and the year after. Now, switching over here into dislikes, there is a couple. This movie's not without sin. I think first starting off, maybe this is just me personally, I think the movie was extremely predictable. Not saying, like I said, I just went on a whole thing where I said it was great, just saying it was predictable for me. I knew when Bucky first killed those people in the beginning, I was like, oh, those people are important. It's probably Tony's parents. And the reason why I thought that is because, not only it logically makes sense, but in Winter Soldier, you see that Toby Jones's Zola says that, basically says that Hydra killed Tony's parents over the years and all the deaths, and they put up Nick Fury death and things like that. With that, who's the main weapon of Hydra? The Winter Soldier. Even though we got a hint of more Winter Soldier than this, it's the Winter Soldier in this. And that I saw coming. I saw Giant Man coming even before he started saying that. I couldn't believe they did it, but I still saw that coming in this movie. There was just a predictability of the story where I only saw 2 trailers for this entire movie that I both reacted to, on the channel. Only 2 trailers. I didn't watch any TV spots. I stayed away from everything. Everything. I know people love doing that, and more props to them. React to it all you want, watch all you want, that's great. I like trying to go in as bare as possible in the movie. And there was still too much shown in these 2 trailers, because there were still points where I was like, fuck, well, I know it's coming there. Fuck, I know it's coming there. Oh, we haven't seen that fight scene between Bucky and Cap and Tony yet. Oh, here's the scene for it right here in Siberia, so we know they're going to fight again and turn against each other. Oh, Tony's kind of switching back to Cap's side and realizing that he's right. Well, that's going to turn bad again, so it's definitely Bucky killed his parents, because what else would set him off again? Unless he's, fooling Cap and lying to him the whole time, which I had a question of for a second, and then I was like, they're going to reveal that it's Bucky killed his parents, and that was a great job of Zemo doing that. But yeah, it's a predictability in this movie that I didn't like. I like Zemo in this movie, like I said. It's just that he kind of has a cookie-cutter story. And like, my family died, it was because of the Avengers, now I'm going to split you apart. And yes, does he succeed? Yeah, that's great, but still, it was, pretty typical. I hope to see him more. I don't know where he would pop up again. Maybe in Avengers Infinity War, but I highly doubt it. So I'm assuming maybe he'll be kind of like a Crossbones at the beginning of this movie, where he's like kind of a 10-minute, 15-minute opening scene to one of these big movies, and then they put him in jail again or something like that. Speaking of Crossbones, I thought the fight was great, all that stuff. I think it was a mistake to kill him. I couldn't believe they killed Rumlow. Seeing him burnt and all that stuff was a cool effect, and how he was kind of standing up to Cap now with his upgraded gear, and I guess maybe he doesn't feel pain anymore and all this shit, right? But I don't like how they killed another villain in the MCU. I mean, that's all we seem to do here in the MCU, is that we imprison Loki and we kill everybody else. I mean, literally, is there any villain beside Loki and Abomination you can think of that's not dead? Because I can't. I mean, please let me know in the comments below. I mean, Stain is dead. Abomination's in jail. Laffy, if you want to count him and the Destroyer in the first Thor movie, dead. Red Skull is seemingly dead, even though I don't totally believe that, but seemingly he's dead. Loki's in prison, like I said. Malekith, wasted but dead. Alexander Pierce, dead in Winter Soldier. Ronan, maybe not dead. Maybe he's in the stone like Red Skull, but seemingly dead. Ultron, dead. I mean, like, everyone dies in these movies. And again, you kill another villain. You shrink the universe again, where you don't give them an ability to have them come back as a, kind of a Masters of Evil situation, or some kind of evil team going forward, or just to have them in a 10-minute sequence at the beginning of another one of your movies. Like, I want them to keep villains alive, especially people, cool like Rumlow, and portrayed really well by Grillo. Like, I want to see those characters last longer. So yes, did it serve a larger point that he blows up and it's because of Wanda and Cap being distracted? Yeah, it serves a larger point, but I don't like that he ends up dying there. So that's definitely a dislike. Another dislike in this movie is, again, I know there's so many characters in this, so I'm not faulting the movie for that, but I would like to see a little more Martin Freeman in this movie. I mean, Jesus, man. I mean, you want to talk about barely in a movie. I mean, he's literally in maybe 2 scenes. I mean, right? 2, 3 scenes? Like, he's introduced when he says that he brings in their weapons when T'Challa and Steve and Bucky all get arrested, right? I think he's like, correct me if I'm wrong, he's like kind of like a head of the Security International Task Force that basically operates for the UN. That's what I got the vibe with, but let me know down below. I'll have to see it again, obviously. But then you see him, I think, again, a little bit once the power goes out, thanks to Zemo. And then you see him again when he has Zemo and is talking about, hey, you did all this for nothing. And then Zemo, actually, I didn't mention, a great line of going, well, hey, you didn't succeed. Did I not? Like, that was great. Or did I? Like, saying I failed. But that's all you see in him in this movie. He's not used basically at all in this movie, and I would like to see him more fleshed out as a character. You get an actor at the caliber of Martin Freeman, you need to use him more, even in a movie of all these people, or if you use them for 1 or 2 scenes, they're more impactful scenes where it doesn't feel like any actor or actress could have filled into that role. It's that, holy shit, that was a powerful or badass moment for that character. That's what I wanted to see. So that's definitely, I would say, a dislike in this movie. And also, the dislike, I also would say, not being too critical in the movie, just saying, I didn't want Tony to be the comic book asshole that he is. And I'm glad that he wasn't. I'm glad I questioned which side I should side for, because that's what the Civil War should be about. But I didn't like that he was like realizing that, oh, Cap was right, and now I gotta go help him out. Because I'm a huge Cap fan, obviously, shown. Many people are. But I don't like what's happening in the Marvel Universe where Cap is always right. All the time, everything that he says happens. It's kind of like a problem I have with Rick in The Walking Dead. Like, everything that he says or does or goes with for the team, and a team aspect, somehow ends up always being right in a way. And I didn't like how then Tony kind of, even though Ross is an asshole, he kind of turns against him and he's siding back with Cap, and then, you killed my parents. Where, if I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure he said, you killed my mother. So, I know he had a tense relationship with his father, but he doesn't give a shit that they die, that his father died, just his mother. So I thought that was a little awkward there, but I didn't like how this movie seems like 3 acts, maybe 4 acts, or an extended 3rd act, and then he's like redeeming himself, Tony, and then back down again. I thought that was a little odd structure of the story. It's not an up and down or a pacing problem for me. It's just a question of writing, of just like, I don't know. I just felt it was a little weird where I would have liked maybe Tony to hunt Cap down and been like, Cap, I need to bring you in. This is how it is. I understand you're right. Hey, it looks like, look at all these other Winter Soldiers in Zemo. You're right, and I'm going to bring people in here to upstand that, and I believe you and everything. It's you and Bucky still have to come in, and then introduce that his parents died, and then that's when Tony doesn't give a shit about protocol, and he goes off. To me, that would have worked a little bit better than redeeming him a little bit, or making him more sympathetic to Cap, and then bringing him back down again. And then a quick dislike was the him and Pepper story. You build up him and Gwyneth Paltrow's relationship and Pepper Potts' relationship over 3 movies, right? You mention her you see her in the Avengers very briefly a little bit, but still you're building up their relationship. You mention her in Avengers Age of Ultron, and then all of a sudden it's like, done. Now, logically, does it make sense? Yeah. If I'm Pepper Potts, I go, Tony, not only you're a little bit off the chain here, but creating Ultron and all these mistakes you made, maybe we need to take some time off. That I get. But kind of shoehorning it in, actually shoehorning is not even the right word. Just kind of just dropping it there in the movie and just like, we don't get to see really anything on it. And also vaguely hinting that some of Tony's motivations to him joining this UN pact and the Sokovia Accords is to try to win Pepper back a little bit. Was a little awkward, and I hope we see Gwyneth Paltrow going forward, see Pepper Potts at some point. Obviously, I hope they get back together because I think they're actually one of the great comic book couples in superhero movies. But I love their dynamic with each other, and I want to see that more. So that was a little bit awkward for me. But yeah, those are my dislikes of the movie. It's still a fantastic movie. Go out, check it out, see it. I had so much fun. I laughed. Like I said, the humor felt organic. It was brutal. It was emotional. It's very dialogue heavy, but good dialogue heavy, where you care about what they're saying. I can't wait to see it another 2 or 3 times and go, oh fuck, I didn't catch that. No shit, I didn't catch that. Like, that's what I want to see. That's what I love about these movies, all little Easter eggs and everything else. And I love this movie, despite the little flaws I have with it. I still love this movie. I think it's a great, great experience. So, moving into the rating here of the movie, this is tough for me. I've had trouble, especially since, ranking the MCU recently. Anyone that's liked that video and watched it recently, greatly appreciate it. You don't know how much that means. But since I just did that, I was like, God, where the hell do I put this movie? So, not to tease you, but it's definitely in my top 4. It moves past Ant-Man, and it's right up there with Winter Soldier, Guardians, and Avengers. It's in that top 4. It's definitely above a 9. And it's hard for me to settle where I want here. I'm going to go 9.3. I'm going to go 9.3. It's not a masterpiece. Doesn't even feel like a comic book story like Winter Soldier. It's not the first time this shit is happening like the Avengers, which, that's an unfair criticism, but you'll never capture that magic again. It's just as good, a tiny bit better for me than Guardians, where I think Guardians is amazing, but I don't know, maybe I just have more invested with these characters, and I'm so energized by seeing Ant-Man again, a new Spider-Man, which I wasn't really super pumped for to see a new Spider-Man movie. Now I am. To see Black Panther, to see all these little characters in Zemo and everything else. That's why it fits at a 9.3 me, just above Guardians of the Galaxy, 3rd in my MCU rankings now, and it's an absolutely fantastic movie that I cannot wait to see multiple times. I just don't know what more to say about it of just how great it is. So I'm just going to stop there before I babble on for another 3 hours. So overall, guys, that is my thoughts here on the review of Captain America Civil War. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, because obviously that is the main point of these reviews. I want to hear what you thought about the movie. What are your likes? What are your dislikes for the movie? What characters that you wanted to see maybe here that are in the MCU that maybe didn't get as much screen time as you wanted to. What do you think about the character progressions of all these characters? Did you think their arcs made sense? Did you like the fight scenes? What did you think about the choreography? Did you like kind of the little hints of relationships of maybe Steve or Sharon, or Wanda and Vision? Did you like how this movie felt like it had consequences, or did you not think it had consequences at all? What problems did maybe you have with pacing of the story arcs, or did you have some of the problems with me of thinking about, saying that it was very predictable? Let me know all your thoughts on the movie down below, and even what you rate the movie. I really just want to know what also you guys think about Black Panther and Spider-Man, how they worked into the MCU, and are you excited for the movies going forward? And also let me know, I didn't even touch on, I knew, speaking of predictability, that Black Widow was going to be the one to switch sides. Did you see that coming? Let me know what you thought about all the characters' progressions and story arcs in the comments down below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, share with your friends, and be so kind. And until next week, where Dylan, obviously a partner on this channel, and our friend Nick T review this movie. Come back and check that out. But until then, until next movie review, thanks for watching.